Something that truly inspires me are folks that are trendsetters, people who are born with a raw talent or a gift or a certain skill set that maybe falls outside of society's normal parameters. And instead of conforming and changing their gift and trying to get better at something else to please somebody that they don't even care about, they go off and they do their own thing. They exercise the skill set, gift, raw talent that they've been given, and they get so good at it that they force the attention of the public, the critics, the world. And my next guest did just that. He is possibly the most prolific surfer in the entire world. And in the beginning, the surfing community wouldn't give him the time of day. They wouldn't sponsor him because he refused to conform to the judges' point system or anything else that the community was trying to make him do. Instead, he pursued his dreams, and he became so good at what he does that he forced the attention of the entire world to look at his talent. Ladies and gentlemen, that exact mindset is partly how I built this podcast, is by setting trends and not looking at competition and not worrying what everybody else thinks. And so for me, this next episode is truly inspirational. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my friend, my business partner, and the most prolific surfer in the entire world, Laird Hamilton, to the Shawn Ryan Show. If you get anything out of this, please head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave us a review. Patreon, thank you for all the love. It's because of you guys that this show even exists. And everybody else, thank you for all the support. We love all of you. Cheers from the Shawn Ryan Show team, and much love to you all. Enjoy the show. Laird Hamilton, welcome to the show, man.
Shawn, thank you.
This has been
You drug me inland. You drug me inland.
That's right. You don't come inland much, do you?
Only for you and a few other brief moments. But yeah, inland. I'm far from the ocean. I'm like, I wonder how long it'll take me to get to water.
We got a lot of creeks here.
They work temporarily.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Tennessee?
I have not.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
It's a good time of year to be here in fall.
Yeah.
So,
color in the trees.
Yep. But so let me give you a quick introduction here, even though you don't really need one. But American big wave surfer, founder of Laird Superfood, pioneer in action, water sports, fitness, health, and nutrition, innovator of stand-up paddleboarding and hydrofoil boarding, successfully surfed Jaws. The wave size, for those that don't know of Jaws, from what I understand, is 30 to 80 feet.
That works.
That's insane. Am I accurate on that?
Yeah.
Where is that wave?
It's on Maui.
Is it?
Yeah, it's off of. Ironically, it's at the base of the largest dormant volcano in the world.
No kidding.
I don't know if there's a relationship, but yeah, it's a special wave on the tip of Maui that when we were young was unsurfed. We were people paddled out to it just to see it, but we were the first ones to actually ride it and make it a wave to be ridden, and we actually brought it. I say we brought its destruction, but we brought the popularity to the spot, which now has made it busy.
Oh man, that's you're quite the adrenaline junkie. I think we have a lot in common here, but I can't wait to dive into that. Stunt double for James Bond in the opening film Die Another Day, filmed at Jaws. Regarded by surf historians as the all-time best of the best at big wave surfing. That's quite the compliment. And probably the most important, husband, 26 years, You're a father of 3 daughters. You're an author, producer, fitness and nutrition expert, and, as I'd mentioned before, adrenaline junkie.
I don't know. That's kind of the problem with that term. It's a little bit of a write-off, but yes, I'll take it. I'll take part of it. You know.
When did your addiction to adrenaline start?
I mean, little kid. My dad said that when I was young, like 6, 7, I would go to I'd go to a cliff where adults were kind of apprehensive and just jump off stuff. So I think I was naturally. I mean, the truth is a piece of it had to start because there was stories of my mom. My real father left my mom while my mom was pregnant, and my mom went to San Francisco to have me, but she had boyfriends when I was young, and I think they were like pushing her around or something, and I would attack them like when I was like very young. Like they said,
oh, wow.
Like a 3-year-old just come and attack the leg, like I was like, so I think, I don't know if that a part of my development in being that way could have started from that, like that I needed to be courageous, forced into courage. I think, I have a stepdad who was a great champion surfer. And, he always said that big wave riders were born and not made, that you were born with that mechanism, that you had it in you. And then it was just a matter of if you were exposed to the situation to develop it. So, but I had a certain predisposition to doing things courageously, fearlessly. Like I would always just jump off high stuff and wanted to go fast in vehicles and just always wanted to be on that edge of destruction, I think I would call it.
That's interesting. I wasn't expecting that. We are going to dive into that and peel those layers back and about your childhood. And I think that's going to help a lot of people. But before we get too deep, everybody on the show always gets a gift.
Okay.
You got any guesses?
I'm hoping it's something that I really like.
All right. Well, maybe you've heard of this company. I don't know. But,
okay.
It's called
I recognize the name.
Superfoods.
I recognize the name.
So, yeah, open that up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what we got.
I love these products. I'm hoping that you like them too.
Hey, okay.
So,
I like it. I like the cup. I love the greens. But here we go. Performance mushroom.
That's my favorite.
My favorite.
Is that your favorite too?
Well, because of the, there's some things that taste better and there's some things that, but it's going to be hard to beat the value of what this has. And I don't know, like, first of all, chaga is the king of all the mushrooms. Like that's the apex, and the benefits that mushroom itself has on the body is, the list is too long. Like and they say they found spores of chaga spores in the stratosphere. Like
interesting.
I don't know what they'd be doing in the stratosphere, but most of it's found grown in the within the Arctic Circle and stuff, and it's the only mushroom that actually grows symbiotically with the tree. It's not feeding off of it. So normally, mushrooms and stuff are feeding off of it. So, and of course, is this a sign? Sleep and recover.
This is I just started taking that, and I love that stuff.
Yeah.
That stuff is amazing.
Yeah.
And you know what I really like about the products is that they're the cleanest products you can get. And I like that everything is sourced, not everything, but everything as much as possible seems to be sourced here in the U.S. And the only time ingredients are sourced outside of the U.S. is if they are higher quality ingredients. And you guys are just doing it right. And
well, if we had more coconut trees in America, I would definitely, we're trying to grow coconuts in Hawaii, but the volume that you need. The truth is that I know first of all, you and we're working together, which I'm very honored to, I feel like I have a theory that I told Gabby one time. It's called the honey line, which is when you find a bee, you follow another bee, and then eventually you get to where all the bees are and you get to where the honey is. And so if you follow a wasp, you get to the wasp nest. So, but the honey line just talks about how that you can get pulled together. And so there's a reason why you and I have been pulled together. I'm not completely aware of all of the means of the things that happen. There's a reason why you have been chosen to do what you're doing, given what you've done and what you're doing now. And I feel like I feel a similar experience to that in my life. Like there's certain things that you just kind of you're led to, and you like to say it's because you're so smart. Everybody, oh yeah, it's because I'm so smart and talented. No, it's not. You're not that smart. So don't give yourself that much credit. Yeah, because then pride comes, and what do they say? Great pride precedeth a great fall. So hold back a little bit. But this stuff is, we work hard. We fight to keep the quality of the ingredients and to make it simple. Just to make it not be so complicated. I think you can. In a way, nature provides us. We just need to understand better what's in nature for us. We've lost a lot of that skill.
Yes, we have.
We've lost that skill, but you intuitively sense when you eat good things that are good for you, your body, before you know it, you're like, oh, you know what? I need that stuff. And it's not. On the negative side is, hey, I eat a bunch of sugar. I need more sugar. I eat a bunch of garbage. I need more garbage. So you have both.
Yeah.
But you have a mechanism that tells you when it's good. And so we're just trying to do that. That's what the truth is that I make this up for me.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm doing. I need to make a company so they can ship it to me.
Well, I love this stuff, and
well, thank you. I appreciate this.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It'll come in handy.
Yeah, but before we move on, I wanted to thank you for allowing me to be a part of it. I'm honored to be part of your venture, and the products are amazing, and I'm always looking for the best quality, and you're it. So thank you.
You also have I think a responsibility, but you also have an opportunity to really help. You help people. You have people that are listening and watching and learning, and so I feel the same way. If you're in a position that you can have influence of any kind, you have a responsibility, and you see that people don't always take that responsibility correctly. Like you have an influence, you have a responsibility, and then what do you do with it? And so I think that for me, I feel like sometimes it's no choice. It's like you have no choice to conduct yourself a certain way, to do a certain thing. And if parenting doesn't teach you that, you can avoid it until you get to become a parent, and then all of a sudden it's like it's unavoidable because it's in your house, in your bed, it's every day. So if it's outside, sometimes you can kind of pretend to ignore it, but when it moves into the house, that's a reminder.
Man, I got to tell you, that's just that is so refreshing to hear you say that, because there's so many people that don't, and that don't take the responsibility of the influence that they have seriously, and I take that extremely seriously with any products that I am endorsing.
Yeah.
And I also take it very seriously with the interviews. I've had interviews that I will not release.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if everything in there is factual. And there have been other interviews that I've done where I'm not sure if it's factual, but it's not going to affect somebody's decision-making process. And so they can take that information, they can believe it, they can not believe it, but at the end of the day, it's not going to affect anybody's decision making. But when you get into medical stuff and endorsements and just information, whether you're digging into corruption or it's medical advice or whatever, that's on here. It all has to check out, because if it's going to influence somebody's decision, and I'm influencing them to make the wrong decision for a paycheck, then I couldn't live with myself. And so it's just great to hear that, because you don't hear that very often, And,
well, I appreciate that. because of the nature of my work, my career has been something where I've had to survive, or, with sponsors and getting people to support you. And sometimes to get people to support you is something as obscure as, riding giant waves or some innovation. I think the key is the sincerity. I think that at the end, that people can smell it, they can sense it, and sometimes it's an invisible thing, but they're like, oh, I don't know what it is, but I lean to this. It's like, and so I think that's and I think your sincerity and that's what's what creating the movement that you have is that genuine. And again, back to that obligation, back to that responsibility. It's like you see it all the time, especially in sports or in entertainment. You see people be of influence, and then they're just looking for the dough. They're looking for the money at the cost of, and that stuff comes and goes. But the effects don't.
Yeah, and your integrity.
Exactly.
Your integrity.
Yeah, it's hard to get that back.
Yeah. A lot of people don't. But before we start, I wanted to bring up the Maui Wildfires. I mean, you grew up in Hawaii.
Yeah.
You spend a lot of time there still. It's been a tremendous part of your life, obviously, within the surfing community, your childhood, everything. Did those fires affect you?
Well, I mean, I knew people that were in them that died, and I have friends that have been dealing with the aftermath of dealing with the devastation. I mean, I've been in big fires. I was in a Malibu fire that was the largest fire that hit, but we didn't have the death. I wasn't in the Lahaina fire, but the death that happened in that fire, and for people, the exposure to the death, and then all the friends and family, and and the destructiveness of that. I mean, when you're looking for people's bodies that just had vanished, like they vaporized, there's that, the questions aren't answered. You don't have. I mean, I think that the level of pain, the hurt that fire created. I mean, okay, houses, buildings, cool. You can rebuild, make new things. Yeah. But people and kids and just that stuff. Those are different animals. That's a different kind of thing that you personally, unless you've experienced it, can't even begin to understand. And so I have a lot of friends over there that have been dealing with the aftermath of that, and then just trying to, the upheaval of the community. And, when people lose their dwellings and lose their homes and lose their foundations, especially if they've never moved and never, it's the only house they've ever had, and then it's gone, and then all of a sudden your family's gone. And I mean, I don't know if I don't think there are words for that stuff.
Yeah, I mean the amount of displaced families and the loss and just the tragedy, and I mean it's people's, their life course is completely changed. No matter what trajectory they were on, now it's a completely different trajectory. And it would be, man, I feel like they didn't. I wish the government would have stepped in and sent some more aid. I mean, we send aid all over the world except to ourselves. And anyways, without getting
hard to believe, actually hard to believe.
It is
hard to believe.
It?
And when we heard things like $700, like they were going to give somebody. I mean, it's almost worse than giving
disgrace.
Nothing.
Like, it's a disgrace.
It's like $700. I mean, have you ever been to Hawaii? It's the most expensive place in the world to live. You can't even you can barely get a hotel room for a night for $700. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what kind of, I mean, and this is a long-term thing, right? It's like the aftermath of the mental going through that fire, how that comes out in the year to 2 to 3 to 4, and then the rebuild. Now already, people have kind of, they've lost some of the momentum of the support because it's out of sight, and we have so many things going on in the world that are distracting us that we're not even thinking about it. And meanwhile, I mean, it could be 5 years before somebody even gets to see a house that they had that burned to the ground, that every single possession that they have, that they still probably owe a mortgage to, that they still, like, hey, you owe this mortgage, and you don't even have a house. Like, you don't even, it's like you don't have a car, you don't have, you don't have an income, you don't have a job, you don't have, so it's pretty, I'm, the only fortune that you have is that the community in Hawaii is so strong when it comes down to it. And I've experienced some other hurricanes and floods and stuff, and the way the community pulls together and the way that they take care of each other there, it's awe-inspiring. Like when you see that, it gives you hope for the human being, that you see in the essence of what's made us great the greatness of humans. I mean, you definitely can see the lack of greatness when you look around, but when you see the way the community pulled together and what they did and the way they responded, by the time the so-called disaster relief group gets in and unloads their planes, everybody's already clothed and fed and housed, and pretty much it's what
a great example, in the face of tragedy for the rest of the world to see.
Every time I get a little discouraged, especially with all that's been going on, I manage to I keep running into a smiling face, somebody at a somewhere, and it continues to, because you can be, if you spend any time on that device and you're not going the right direction, you can be pretty discouraged given everything that's happened and is happening and could happen, all that stuff that your brain runs. And so I am encouraged that there's good people, and there's a lot more of us than people realize. A lot more. You have a lot more brothers and sisters than you realize. They're there, and they're maybe just a little more quiet, but it's it's something that quietness, but also speaks to that endurance. The guy that runs far doesn't run real fast, but he's just steady. So it's that steady that I have hopes, for, is that just that reliability and that steadiness.
There's a lot more good people in the world than it seems, than the media makes it seem, than social media makes it seem. It seems like everybody's divided, but really I think we're all a lot closer together than what's being projected through media.
So they got to keep us at each other's throats, so we keep us distracted, because if we're all together, it might be a little too big a force.
Yeah.
Is too big a force.
Unfortunately for them, it seems like people are starting to come together. You know? And slowly but surely.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's move into you. So I want to cover your childhood, get into your surfing career, and then get into some biohacking stuff, because I am just fascinated with that, and I know you're an expert on it. But reason I want to dig into your childhood, and they just got a small glimpse, but there's a lot of kids throughout the world who are struggling, and I know you didn't have you had a tough upbringing, and to see where you've come, in life, and from where you've come is, it's inspiring, and a lot of people can relate to that. And I know it's going to bring a lot of hope to kids out there who aren't in the greatest situation. And that's why I like to cover this. So let's go right into it. Where were you born? When I first started this whole podcasting thing, an online store was about as far from my mind as you can get. And now, most of you already know this, but I'm selling Vigilance Elite gummy bears online. We actually have an entire merch collection that's coming soon. And let me tell you, it is so easy because I'm using a platform that is extremely user-friendly, and that's Shopify. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. What I really like about Shopify is it prompts you all the things that you want to do with your web store, like connect your social media accounts, write blog posts, just have a blog in general. Shopify actually prompts you to do this. You want people to leave reviews under your items? You can do that on Shopify. It's very simple. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to the other leading commerce platforms. Shopify is a global force for millions of entrepreneurs in over 175 countries and power 10% of all e-commerce platforms here in the United States. You can sign up right now for $1 a month. It's shopify.com/Shawn. That's all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Shawn now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. That's shopify.com/Shawn. Are you traveling this holiday season? Well, Pure Talk has you covered because they've just added international roaming in over 30 countries. That's right. Whether you're making calls from the Vatican or on a beach in the Bahamas, you're covered. From the steps of Buckingham Palace or your villa in Santorini, you can dial away. And here's the best part. There's no rate increase. Pure Talk still saves the average family almost $1,000 a year with plans starting just at $20 a month. And they put you on America's most dependable 5G network, so the coverage is second to none. Stop dragging your feet. Switch to Pure Talk, a veteran-owned wireless company with simply the best U.S. customer service team. Now, with international roaming in over 30 countries, go to puretalk.com/Ryan to make the switch and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. That's puretalk.com/Ryan to start savings on wireless now.
Well, I was born in San Francisco. My mother was from Southern California, and fell in love with her high school sweetheart. They were the Z's in the class. I think it was still, you have homeroom, and they were, ABC, and she was in, her last name was Zyrick, and his last name was Zerfus. So they were like two Z's. But my mom got pregnant at 19 or 20 years old. And it was obviously the early 60s, and my blood father, he wanted to be a merchant marine, and so he just kind of split from her, and that forced her to kind of have to figure out how to deal with, having me and being on her own. And she went to San Francisco, and I think there was an opportunity to do. There was some study they were doing at the University of San Francisco around pregnancy, and they had some weird vacuum they put on the stomach for the last trimester of the pregnancy, and then in return she would get free, be able to get, kind of have me for free at the hospital. And I think she was working until the very last up there. She would work on the fairgrounds and whatever she could do to survive, and then I was born in San Francisco. She had some friends that, and I don't know if it was a boyfriend or a friend of hers that the 60s were happening, and I think it was Vietnam, and there was a lot of stuff going on, and it was a little bit of like the hippies and the rebel against this, the structure of 8 to 5 and do the thing, and just like the whole kind of. So Hawaii was for Southern Californians or people that were surfing, because there was a surf culture that started that was kind of out of rebellion. So Hawaii represented like this paradise, like coconut trees and rainbows, and like this place to escape the rat race, because they considered what was going on the rat race. And so she took me as a baby. I was like a couple months old, and then took me to Hawaii, and I got exposed to, we moved to Lahaina, actually, the place that burned down. And so I lived in Lahaina, which was a defunct whaling town, or not, I should say, they said capital, but it was the whaling hub of Hawaii for a long time. And then eventually it kind of disappeared. There was only a couple little stores there. And so I kind of, year or 2 years old, I got exposed to, my mom's boyfriend used to push me onto little waves. I think when I was 2 or 3 years old, I fell on urchins and had both butt cheeks so impaled I couldn't sit down for a long time. But they would just push me on waves. And my mom said I could probably swim before I could walk. I used to crawl to the pool and just go in the pool and swim. So I swam like at a crazy young age. And my mom's friends were surf filmmakers and surfers, because she was around Gidget, and there was like the famous Hollywood surfing movies. And so she knew the actual Gidget and some of these other girls that were surfers. Linda Benson and some famous girl surfers were her friends. She surfed when she was in high school, but when she got pregnant and started to working, she had to take care of, obviously, of me. And then so I got brought to Hawaii as an infant. And I wasn't born in Hawaii, which kind of worked against me. Even though I'd been there since I was in my diapers, it didn't matter. Like I 3 months, 6 months, a year old, when you're not born there, that sets the precedent already. You're not born there, and then you're the wrong color. So then you're all of a sudden you're not born there, and you look like maybe a descendant of Captain Cook or something. So that's not a great scenario. Sets you up for the grind. It sets you up for the tension, and so that's kind of the beginning, right? So the beginning is that, and then we moved to another island. So we went from being on Maui to moving to Oahu, which is the main island where like Pearl Harbor is, and the majority of the population. It's the state capital, and we happened to move. And I don't know if when I was like 3 or 4, we moved to what is at the time was considered the most dangerous beach in the world. It's called the Bonsai Pipeline, and it's a world famous beach. It's where surfers at the time from all over the world would come to challenge. Mm-hmm. Like it was a challenge place. Like it was, you think you're a good surfer,
Test yourself.
Come and surf Pipeline. And Pipeline was the most dangerous. Is one of the most dangerous beaches in the world, for absolutely. And so I kind of began my and some of this is I'm putting together pieces from my mom's, and from my mom's since passed, but from just what I know and what, because obviously when you're a little that young, you're not remembering, but I'm remembering, that I would, so we lived at a house. And so then my mom, we lived at a house that was right at this beach. And so all the surfers that would go to this wave to challenge would walk through our yard. And so I was a young male watching all these handsome, studly young guys come to challenge, Hawaii, first of all, one of the, premier places to surf in the world. Surfing is from Hawaii. It's a Polynesian sport developed by the Hawaiians that were some of the greatest navigators in the world. And so, if not the greatest navigators in the world, before longitude and latitude, they were sailing all around the world by the stars and stuff. They had some crazy techniques that they learned about being able to navigate the oceans. So
interesting.
That's where surfing comes out of, that culture, right? So, and that's the culture of Hawaii. So the ocean it's all about the ocean. It's all about your skill in the ocean, your ability to fish and be in giant waves and sail and dive. And I mean, that's what you do when you're there, because it's not only is it transportation, but it's subsistence. It's everything.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And so I'm at that beach, craziest beach in the world. All the studliest guys are walking through my front yard. I'm watching them. I'm like, I want to be like that when I grow up. I see a guy at the beach that I think was what my dad should look like. I don't have a dad. I need a dad. So I'm like, that guy looks like he'd be a good dad. And I think maybe I get credit for it, but I think my mom and him already knew each other. But I introduced him. I think he knew my mom. And so he kind of befriended me at the beach, knowing that he might take me home. I'm not sure which one, but I introduced him to my mom, and he ended up marrying my mom. And so that ended up becoming my father that I didn't have. And so, and that was the beginning of, that was the, beginning of a step having a father was about 5 years old. So at 5 years old,
So 5 years old, you met this. What's his name?
Bill Hamilton.
Bill Hamilton. You met Bill.
Yes.
At 5 years old on the beach and said, "I want you to be my dad. I want to introduce you to my mother."
Yes, sir.
What? I mean, do you remember this?
I mean, I remember it because I've told it so many times. Yeah, I mean, I remember like him. I used to get rescued a lot. I would get sucked out to sea, like in the current, because I would play at the beach and the waves would come and take me and then suck me out, and then the lifeguards would have to rescue me, and then he would rescue me. So I was rescued constantly, and I just remember, having him rescue me and then holding on to him and having him pull me in, and then eventually he took me on waves and I would ride his back, and that was probably before I was 5. But when he married my mom when I was 5. Maybe the year before or something like that. So that was the kind of the foundation of my water, and then he set up at one point I was getting taken out so often that the lifeguards would go to my house and tell my mom, "Hey, Laird is out to sea again, and we've rescued him twice today, and we can't keep rescued. Can you just keep him?" And my mom would be like, no, Laird's in his room, he's napping. And then they'd be like, "No, he's not, he's out there right now." And then she'd look, and I would have crawled out my window onto a limb of a banyan tree and climbed and got, and went and got out in the ocean. So I was,
So you were inseparable at 5.
Beyond. It was,
Wow.
it was, I think I contributed to my mom's early passing just because of between my brother and I, and maybe a couple of the men she raised. But I think that we were, for my mom, I was like, she was like, "My God, thank God you made it to 12." And then it was like, "Oh my God, it's a miracle you made it to 14." And then it was like, "Oh my, you made it to 16." Because I think I just was like, it was just every day, every time. I mean, which stitch, which injury, which try,
Yeah.
It was that's just kind of what the toy was.
Let's
wound up.
let's backtrack a little bit to before Bill.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned at the beginning
Yeah.
we were talking about addiction to adrenaline, and you think that maybe that started at a extremely young age. So let's talk about what the home life was like.
Yeah.
Pre-Bill.
Well, there's some stories of me attacking, like one of my mom's boyfriends, or somebody she was going out with was like slapping her around or did something to her, and I would attack him. Like I'd be like 2-year-old little tiny, man attack. Like I would just attack the leg and get pushed away. But I think my courage, my ability to not be scared and like go at stuff, I would just go at, I would go at him. I would go at an adult as a little child. Like I didn't really, it wasn't like I was like, I was going to go protect my mom. And I think I had that in me, that was in me. That was in me when I was 3, 4, whatever. That was in me. Like that was my. So I think that, and again, I don't know if that came along with that fearless kind of, little daredevil, like I'm going to jump off I just always had some jump off, speed, take the wagon down the hill, hit the jump with the bike into the trees. And I just always just had that stuff. But I definitely was like, I'd put my down, like the stories were that I'd just put my head down and I would just charge them. I would charge adults as a little kid, and
I don't think it's a coincidence. I mean, there's all kinds of studies that show how personalities and personality traits are developed. They start developing immediately.
Yeah, probably inside, but
yeah, and you were forced to learn how to overcome fear at a very young age out of necessity. I think that's
attack the adult because he's hurting your mom. Like, so
are you close with your mom? Were you close with your mother?
Yeah, crazy close. Yeah, I mean, my mom. I did weird stuff. I would undo the stuff in my crib and get out. Like she'd have to keep me in a crib when I was young, and I would figure out how to undo it, and I'd be down the street. She said it was like I just think for her, it was just, I mean, she was already, I don't know what, I think it was just like, here's your new wild animal, raise it. But we know the development, right? We know that foundation stuff is, I mean, by the time you're 4, it's probably pretty cemented in, at least that stuff.
Yeah.
So I had that. And then when Bill came along, he would say, oh, yeah, I took you up to Waimea Falls, like some big 50-foot whatever. And he said, 6 years old, you just get back and run and jump off. And they'd be like, and the guys were all, freaking out. So I already had that kind of disposition. I had that thing in me that I think served me well. But I think it's, it's also how do you constructively vent that too? Because you can just put that in any genre. You can put that kind of radical charge, do anything into any category, and you're, where do you go?
Yeah, yeah. How was life after Bill came in to the family?
Initially, I mean, first of all, Bill was younger than my mom. The fact that he took on me either meant my mom was really, beautiful or but he was willing to take that on. I think that was a big responsibility.
He was 17 at the time, correct?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, when he first started. So, and then by the time, and then my brother came, and I think that, and also my mom wanted different things than Bill. I think Bill wanted to just, surf and hang out and not, and my mom was like, hey, I need a house. I'm not going to get food stamps. I'm not gonna live on the dole. I'm not gonna just live and I'm not gonna do that. And I think that's when their thing started to Bill was more like a big brother, and then my brother came along, and I think that for me that was more difficult because then all of a sudden my brother was the real son and I wasn't the real son. So that kind of created. Which had its pros and cons. When things were good, it was like, well, I'm not related, so I kind of have a disclaimer. But then when they were bad, then I'm not related, and have just, it's like, so that I had both sides of it. But like I said, him being young, and then my mom being young, and just the difficulty of all of it, and people wanting different things, and earning a living in Hawaii, wasn't a lot of choice. It wasn't like there was all these opportunities. We moved from that beach, on Oahu to the Garden Island, which is Kauai, and we moved into a remote valley, which was probably the only house that we could rent for $100 a month or something. And the house that we moved into from there when I was 6, I would think, and my brother was just coming, my brother had already come out, and so I was 6, like first grade or something like that, starting school, had been moved a bunch of times by tidal waves, and it was on the hill. It was like the highest house in the area, and it was just a bare tin roof with screen windows, and I think we had an outhouse in cold water for a while. I used to have to go on the roof and try to tar, when I got older, tar the holes, and if it rained real hard. At one point, I think it was a big thing. We got some kind of crappy TV with antennas, and we put tin foil on them, and you couldn't hear. If the rain came, you couldn't hear the TV if no matter how much you turned it up. So, but the valley we moved into was full of just a bunch of different. Well, there was Hawaiian families, there was Japanese families, there was all different, but we were pretty much the only white family. There might have been one or two other white people.
Really?
Yeah, and so that, and then we were in the middle kind of the house that we rented from the old man that lived there was a Hawaiian Chinese guy, and he had all these, it was like in the middle of a compound. You're like a little bit of a, you're in the compound, but you're the only whites in the compound. And, I mean, so that's where, so we go, and we're remote. Like we're down a little dirt road, down another dirt road, down another dirt road, like kind of like in the boonies. So
Back in the jungle.
in the jungle, and the law of the jungle. We're in the law. We're in the law of the jungle. There's the law of the jungle.
I mean, from what I understand, I don't know if it's still like this, but from what I understand, Hawaii is the people of Hawaii are very territorial.
Yeah.
Would that be the correct term?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and there's a unique thing going on, which is there are a lot of different cultures, right? So you have Filipinos, you have Japanese, you have Chinese, you have Portuguese, and then you have Hawaiians, and then you have combinations of all those, and then you have Caucasians, right? And so and within that you have an interesting thing, I learned it from growing up in it, but I always could wonder, how could somebody have so much hate for me that I never did anything to make them hate, and they never had anything really done to them that make them hate, but they were actually, it was perpetuated hate, like it was passed down. Like you realized, you saw a guy that had a lot of hate, and you're like, oh my God, I met the dad. The dad has even more hate. Like they just
generational.
They just passed it. So some of that hatred or that envy or some of that stuff was passed down, just like kindness and beauty, and that's passed down too, right? So you had some of the stuff was passed down, and I also saw experienced that some people or even cultures were taking on the suppression or the things that happened to another culture. It wasn't even theirs, but they inherited it. So you could have a migrant worker that moved to some place that took on the burdens of the native people, because they got part of it. You could be 1% Hawaiian and 99% something, one other Filipino, Japanese, Chinese, Portuguese mixture, but you would take on that you were like you were a Hawaiian that had been suppressed, kind of thing, but you weren't really, but you had, so there was all that and everything in between. And so I used to like, so then I lived in that environment, and so, which just infused me right into an opportunity to be like, we lived next to a pig farm. We fished. Like I learned how to fish and dive with the Hawaiians, and farm and kill pigs and clean and cook pigs in the ground and dry fish and the thing. I saw culturally, like for me, what the school I went to was
that out of necessity, or was that you immersing yourself in the culture?
Out of necessity with my desire to immerse.
Okay.
So it wasn't that we couldn't eat and we had to do the thing, but that's what was happening. That's where you were. You were in a place that this is what was going on. You live next to a pig farm, and then you look over there and there's pigs, and all the boys are over there. You're like, hey, I'm gonna go see what's going on over there. And all of a sudden you're in it and you're learning about it and you're doing all that. So, oh, hey, they're fishing. I'm gonna go down there and help. And you just become immersed in the environment as part of survival. Part of it's like, that's what you're doing. There's no, so I had that thing, which was beyond, and I wouldn't change one of things that ever happened to me, not one single moment, because it would make it that I wouldn't be here now. I wouldn't have the family I have. I wouldn't, I could say, hey, I wish I wouldn't have done that, but at the end of the day, not at the cost of not arriving here today. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't change it, even though during it, it's not fun and it wasn't great and I didn't love it. But, there's a couple, there's so many lessons and so many things that made me different. Like I would go to California coming from that environment and being, I had some of the biggest Hawaiian friends ever that were my protectors. So like at high school, if I got in a fight, the guy would just come and make sure it was like, even odds and stuff, and just stuff that I had some beautiful, like the lessons, the relationships, the food, the things I learned how to do. Gabby would always ask me, well, how do you know how to fix that and do that? I go, well, because there was no fix-it guy. Like if you had a broken bike, you learned how to fix the bike. If you had a thing, you fix the thing. You fix the electric, you fix the plumbing, you fix whatever otherwise you don't have it. So you learn how to fix it. And so there's stuff that I would never change. And that's what's made me so different, like in my approach and how I look at things, what I've done, because I wasn't raised in, Southern California, and I wasn't playing football at homecoming, and I didn't have any of that stuff. I had quite the contrary. Like you didn't go to homecoming, and you couldn't really have a girlfriend because because the brothers wouldn't let you be with them, even if they liked you and you liked them. That was a no-no. It was like, so we had all that stuff that in a way, and I had Bill. The lessons I learned from him about, being a man, about facing up when things that unfortunately sometimes as a parent, the lessons you learn of how not to be sometimes are greater than how to be. Like I could look and be like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't respect that. I'm not going to be that guy. I'm going to be this guy. Right. So sometimes those are more impactful. I think because it's the negative stuff has more power over us because we want to avoid it, where the positive stuff has less power because it seems like if we've already done it, we already know how, we don't need to remember, but we're not trying to avoid it. So, it's like good news, bad news, bad news travels a lot quicker and you tell a lot more people for a reason because being standing up for myself, Bill, there's a bunch of things, but Bill was crazy. Like
really?
He was a
How
crazy
so?
guy. I'll give you an example. One time I was surfing, and I had a situation with a local guy, and he was gonna do something to me. I was a younger kid, and he was an adult, and so I told Bill, and Bill was out, and then he went over and told the guy hey, and then they surrounded him with a group of guys surrounded Bill, and Bill was like, well, who's the first guy that's going to drown? Which one of you? Because I might drown, but I'm going to drown somebody first, maybe two, maybe three of you. And they looked at him and they went, okay, he's serious. Like, Hamilton's serious, and they just would part and go away. And so in a way, I always, it's interesting. The crazy dog is the one people fear. You can be not even that vicious, not even that big and strong, but you just look, you go, oh, that's the crazy dog. You better stay away from him because you don't know what he's going to do. You just don't know what he's going to do. Right. So I think that saved us a little bit, and he wasn't acting. He was for real. And so that kind of, I think that also, I looked at that kind of little bit of that craziness, that having that temper and having that kind of incontrollability, like that, I felt that was a little bit of a weakness in my mind. And so I think I use that as something to, because I have, like we all do, have tempers and have a thing, but I always thought, I came to realize that was something that was something that was a vulnerability. And that if actually you could keep yourself really centered and be, the more chaotic they got and the more radical stuff got, the more you were able to center and be aware and be, the better and more effective you were. And that ended up helping me. Like, that's helped me throughout my whole life, and especially in heavy situations, no matter what they are. Didn't matter what it was. I'm just not good Gabby always laughs. She says, hey, you're just terrible in the day-to-day. Like the day-to-day monotony, I'm just like, oh, here we go again. It's just like the monotony, like if it's all a wreck and, everything's on fire, I'm just
That's
perfect.
where you flourish.
I feel like, hey, I got a real purpose. There's a reason for me to be here. The rest of the time, I'm just like, what, here we go. What are we doing?
That's home for you. Chaos is home.
Yeah. Yeah, and it started in the ocean. It was on land. It was everywhere, and so I feel like I have to seek it out. I have to be careful, because sometimes you ask for it and then you get it in a way. Like I was one few years ago, I was like, oh, I need some chaos. And then it was like, all of a sudden you're in a giant fire. I'm like, well, maybe not this chaos. And then you're like, hey, I need some chaos. And there's a huge hurricane. You're like, oh, maybe not that chaos.
Yeah.
It's like, I need like more controlled chaos, like in the bottom of my swimming pool with a dumbbell, or, or in a giant wave where I have, a little more experience. But
it's interesting how humans will recreate where they're comfortable. And if you're comfortable in stress and chaos and everything feels like it's falling apart, you will recreate that exact scenario over and over throughout your life because that's where you feel at home.
Yeah.
And I can relate to that.
Yeah. Well, now I'm trying to do that with real, like, let the environment do it, have it be controlled. Like whether maybe it's chaotic a little bit and you're super hot, super cold, got to hold my breath, I'm underwater, like that. So there's some stress stuff that we can do kind of in a little bit of a controlled environment that makes it more constructive and less destructive and more, but then also have it be something that there's only the positive can come out of it, because a lot of times those chaotic situations, the aftermath is there's damage everywhere, and let's try to avoid that. So you've been, it's like you go through that, but the ocean is a provider of that situation. It's ready and available and willing at any moment. And you want to go get yourself into something a little bit grabby, it's there. She's just ready and willing, and she's ready. He's ready and willing for you anytime. So that's that's my upbringing. My high school was crazy. There used to be a thing called Kill Howley Day. That was the last day of school. So it was like they kill white people pretty much. It was Kill Howley is a white guy. So Kill Howley Day was last day of school.
No kidding.
They're like, oh, do you have Kill Howley Day at my school? I go, yeah, I go there and kill Howleys. So but the reason why the last day of school was Kill Howley Day was because you couldn't get suspended. Because it was already summer. So, but I went to I had a bunch of, my school was really a giant school. We had a bunch of kids, like 2,500 kids. I think at one point it might've been, third or fourth in the nation for crime and violence. Like we had like a crazy, like
no
East
kidding.
LA, the Bronx. And then my school had, knife and shoot and, just crazy 40 kids in a class and one, and then 7th through 12th all together, some crazy. And then I had to ride a bus for like 2 hours to get there. It was just a disaster. So I was just like, this schooling thing, this sucks. I ended up eventually having my mom sign me out. My mom signed me out of school because I just wasn't going to go, and I went to work. So I went in the 11th grade. She was like, because she was a single parent at the time, she was able to somehow get me. And it just wasn't. There was nothing good about it.
So did Bill stick around?
No, my mom and dad they parted ways probably when I was 12, something like that, 12 or 13. So, or no, I'm sorry. I was a little older than that, but by then they were kind of off and on, and I had already, like, by the time I was 16, I was already kind of out the door. I had opportunities to go and try to just, go be somewhere else, and which my brother didn't. He was there, but my mom. But then they were broken apart, and later my mom had a really nice. A nice guy for the last about 18 years of her life before she passed away. But she ended up starting a helicopter company. It was her first tour company in the state, and then built a house. And like my mom was an animal.
She pulled out of it.
My mom was an animal. Like her work ethic and my mom was a my mom read the book, The Wall, a book she read. My mom would read a novel, like just a big, thick book in a weekend. Like she'd start on Friday and just read, like profuse reader, amazing, just a smart lady. And one of the things that she did for me as a young boy was develop my imagination. So my mom used to read me And I think that's probably why I started, other than I had some educational issues, but with reading, they messed me up. One of the programs definitely messed me up, but then my mom would read to me, and so I really had no reason to read. But she read me like The Lord of the Rings, the entire trilogy when I was really young. She read me Dune. She read me, Jonathan Livingston. She read me all these crazy, crazy books growing up that really kind of opened my imagination.
Wow.
Which I think had a really profound effect on me later on, just in my creativity and all of that.
Are you and Bill still close?
I try to be close to him, but it's I don't think he really wants to be close. I think part of his upbringing and his thing about intimacy, I think it's hard for him to, and maybe we're like, I'm a reminder, I have daughters, that he's getting older, and I think part of his thing, he still wants to be, a young, handsome surf guy. And I don't know if that comes from not being fulfilled, maybe as not getting everything out of it that he wanted or could have, or I'm not sure. I just know he has granddaughters, and and like what you realize is that it's your responsibility to develop the relationship. If you want a relationship with your granddaughters, then you got to have a relationship. You got to go and you got to make the effort.
Like put the time in.
Yeah. And when I was 21, I found my real dad, and I found him and
really, hold on. What triggered that? I mean, obviously you want to meet your real dad, but why at 21? What happened
Just I think at that point I was in California. I had some connections that might have known where he was or something like that. I was just interested in, meeting my biological father. I just wanted to have that. I just had the curiosity. It was like a weird thing inside, like curiosity, like, hey. And so I found him.
Were you worried? Was there any fear in finding and meeting your biological father?
Maybe a little bit, like maybe a little. I think it's unknown. I think the unknown, like how are you gonna respond? Like, hey, where were you? Why come you didn't do anything? Why you didn't help mom? Like all those things. I think you have I feel like I was curious to meet him, and like I wanted to know like why he didn't participate, wasn't interested. Like if he wasn't he interested? Like maybe he was, but my mom was like in Hawaii and didn't make it, so he could. And you just don't know. It's a domestic, right? And you don't. But I wanted to meet him. I wanted to look at him and see him, and kind of answer maybe some of all those questions that you have when you have somebody kind of just that you're related to, that's your father, that you're blood related to. And I went and had met him at a cafe and sat down and had a breakfast with him. And
how'd you find him?
I through some people that knew like somebody that my mom, one of my mom's friends that had that had word, and then I called and I'm like, okay, well, where is he? And then, we heard he's here, call so-and-so. And I just, detective. I just did my detective thing. And eventually I got him, and I'm like, hey, it's Laird.
You called him?
Yeah.
What was the initial conversation like?
Part of it I just block out, right? So some of it was like, there's a block out. I think he was a little bit like, hey, how's it, how you doing, or something like that. It was kind of, it was like, how awkward is it going to be? Yeah. Pretty much it's going to be awkward. Like no matter what, it's going to be like, hey, where were you? How come you didn't go? Well, hey, how's it going? It's like, hey, I'm 21 years old. I'm a man already. You haven't even seen me for, ever. maybe saw things of me or whatever, but the truth is that once I sat with him and ate and spent some time, I realized that we didn't have anything. There was nothing. We didn't have any experiences.
Yeah.
That we had nothing. Like we didn't have any. We didn't go to the park. We didn't go to a movie. We didn't. So we had no experience. We had some similar, first of all, visual traits, like look like each other. Probably some behavioral stuff, like some of the issues that I've had to deal with were probably a gift from him. But that really kind of made it like, oh no, I'm good. I'm okay. Like, cool. Okay, you're good. Like, I answered that question. I went, I found, I saw, I talked, and I went. And I wasn't ready at that time to go, hey, I want to establish a relationship with you and try to develop a thing. I'm going like that, and you're over here. And so that almost like made that good. Like I was good with that. And in a way, kind of harsh, I guess, but I was just more like it was like an answered. It was like a door that I looked behind and went, okay, cool, and then just shut the door and I'm good. And so later on,
did any of the questions get answered, like why he had left, or?
I think one of the things that came out of it was that maybe he wanted to go, so my mom just went and cut tie. Like she's like, oh, you're not gonna participate. Boom. So it wasn't like, because I was always like, well, how come we didn't send a thing, or did you send a card, or didn't try to support you, or didn't thing like that? And I'm like, maybe even if he had tried, maybe she, again, it's a domestic, is between a man and a woman, and it's like, and so I think there's that, which is like, maybe it wasn't just straight up like he just didn't care and didn't go, like didn't participate. So part of it was that, but the other part was. Maybe he was incapable of it, but I realized that we just had nothing in common. Like other than maybe a couple propensity to have a bar fight or something. Like we just didn't have anything. And so I was good with that. Like I was okay with in the conversation that we had, there were things that I could relate to, like that I was relating to traits. That I was like, oh, I have potential to have that trait, or I see some of my thing in him, some of the things that I have from him, I could see it, other than not just physical, but, because emotional things are downloaded. I mean, they say we have 14 generations of trauma on our DNA. I mean, you can download a trait, an emotion. There's no doubt. That stuff, it's not just physical. People always, oh, you look like each other. Yeah, I know, you download. I mean, the information's, I don't think we can even measure it. But so I was good. Like I was good with it. I answered, and factually, and probably not really that great of me, but later on, a few years later, I guess he was trying to reach out to me, like on his deathbed or whatever. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, bye. Like, but I didn't have any urge to like go there and be there. And I didn't feel like that kind of obligation. And, it made me realize like how that's why adoption works, right? That's why adoption's real, because when you take and you cherish and you love and you experience, that's the connection that you build. You build through time, through investment. Yeah. You don't just, you don't just get because you're related. You don't just get it. You don't get it. You have to earn it. Like you earn this thing. Like you earned it. And so, and with Bill, I love Bill. Him and our values are so different that, I'm focused on my, my wife, my daughters, my work, my thing. I just feel like, and my brother and him are, they have they now have a civil relationship, and I have a civil relationship with him. And I realize that maybe that's just all that we can do. Like that at the end, all we can have is that's the highest level that we can get. We can't get to anything beyond just like a civil understanding and a relationship. Yeah. It's I mean, I have a great friend, Mr. Wildman, and I've had more than one in my life, men that were my mentors, but that I looked up to, like father or grandfather, or those kind of men that represent, and that you don't need to be related. But he always used to say, if you want fair, you go to the fairgrounds. Like, it's not fair. Like, there's nothing fair about
Life.
Any of this stuff. It's not fair. So this doesn't. So, but yeah, it is. I mean, it's your. You want a daughter? You want a relationship with your daughter? You better have a relationship with your daughter. Like, like you want a relationship with your son. You want a relationship with your. You got to put this is. You got to put the time in.
This is a very interesting conversation that I didn't plan on digging into. But when you met your father, your biological father,
yeah.
I mean, did you sense any guilt or regret
by him?
By him.
I don't know if he had that capacity.
But he did reach out to you. He did reach out to you on his deathbed.
Yeah, he did on his deathbed. But it's
the
a little
next
bit
time
like,
you
oh, now
heard
you
from
want
him?
to, now that you're going to die? Like,
Yeah, you're gonna put this on me.
now you want to, now that you're going to die, now you wanted to, I mean, I appreciate it, and but
That was the next time you heard from him. You met him
Yeah.
at a coffee shop and
Pretty
then
much.
didn't talk to him again until, hey, I'm dying.
yeah.
What did he say? What did he say to you on his deathbed? I mean, abandoned you as a kid.
Yeah.
Met you once at a coffee shop at age 21. How much time had passed between that and
Probably another 10, 12 years, something like that. Some decent time.
over a decade later, and the
Yeah.
next phone call is, "Hey, I'm dying."
Yeah.
How did that conversation go?
Short. I mean, not a lot to talk about. Not like, hey, sorry about that. Have a good. Well, maybe I'll see you there. I mean, like,
Yeah.
not. I mean, it's in a way. I guess there's a harshness to that, but it's. That's the real. That was just the reality of it. The reality of it was that there just wasn't. I didn't have a huge thing about it.
There's
like
no
I didn't,
emotional connection.
No, because I didn't, because there was no, I have friends that I have deep, that I mourn. Like it was almost like barring a phone call, a breakfast, that was about the extent of the relationship. I mean, there's not a lot there. Like it's, minute, 2 minutes. I mean, and I think, and I don't know if, part of it was, and it may be because my mom was a little bit estranged from her family, and so our family was always the immediate family, and even now, like, we don't really have grandparents, barely. Gabby and I both have, our relationship is pretty much us. I mean, we don't. So we don't. It's not like we had all of the associated guilt that gets developed with a lot of the, hey, weren't thing and this and that, having like, hey, you weren't here and you got to be like that, and your parents passed away and you that's what you do, and you like we didn't have a lot of that built in. I mean, I didn't, just given that I had barely even, we lived in Hawaii. It was my mom, and like I had some relatives. I had grandparents that were Bill's things that I wasn't even related to because it was Bill's, and my mom's. I saw my grandmother and she was meaner than a rattlesnake. And I mean, it was like, but minimal contact because we didn't live where they were. We were away from them. So I think some of it was that. I think the piece of it was that we didn't have all that inner family, see grandma on the week, grandparents have a barely in the structure of, mom and dad. It's like, so,
yeah.
So I think that also kind of didn't make me have a huge, I mean, I've had dogs that I've mourned more, I mean, and that's the truth. That might be harsh, but that's just the reality of just the level of the depth of the relationship was something that was just, we didn't have We had it wasn't like, hey, remember the time we did the thing and and all these, we didn't have that. That sometimes that stuff is invisible, but it's the bond that we build through the layers of experiences that we have with each other, the things that we do, the Christmas, the movie, the scary thing, the injuries, the hey, I took you to I remember one time I broke my leg. And I had ditched school I think I ditched school every day for a whole quarter. I had some crazy thing. So I had dinner on Sunday night. And I'm just using this as an example of developing experiences together in relationship. So Sunday night we had dinner, and my mom and Bill and my mom aren't together, but Bill has to give me the, hey, you better go to school thing. So I get the, hey, you better go to school. But he lives in another house with another person down in town. And so, yeah, on Sunday, I'm going to go to, I'll go to school. And then the next day I'm in the bus and the waves are beyond good. Like it's as good as it gets. And I'm like, I just go like that. The bus stops. I get off the bus. I go straight. I go out. I get run over. A guy runs me over and I'm probably 15, 16, compound my leg, compound my leg. I got to walk across the reef. I finally get to the car. My friend takes me and drives me to my dad's house. So this is at 9 a.m. on Monday morning after the Sunday night talk about going to school. My dad goes, get in the car. And I swear he hit every pothole for the hour and a half ride to the hospital that he could find. He would just turn off the road to hit bumps, just But him and I have that. We have that to talk about. Like we have that experience that we had. And all the ones that we had over our relationship, all the times, all the things that we had over that process. We have that no matter what. So we have that bond, even if we just, hey, how you going? How you going? We still have this thing that we built with all of these experiences, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you don't have that, there's none of that, zero. Not a lot to talk about. Yeah. You're not a lot, and actually not a lot to feel. More importantly, because this is an invisible thing, and so you don't even feel it. You're like you look, you go, I have no feeling towards that. I just don't have any. I like.
The reason I want to dive into this so much is don't quote my statistics here, but
if
I remember correctly, I believe it's damn near 25% of the U.S. population is fatherless. They don't have a male role model in the family dynamic, and you see it today. It's created this situation where there aren't a lot of positive male role models to begin with in the country.
Yes, sir.
In the world,
yes, sir.
I believe at this point.
Yes, sir.
And so, and you see it even the ones that do have homes. There's a lot of deadbeat dads out there. You see, I talk about this all the time, but you go to the store, you see kids that have male teenage kids with zero self-confidence. They can't look you in the eye. They look at their shoes. They don't know how to communicate. Yeah. And all of these things are because they don't have there's no male figure to look up to.
Yeah.
And it's becoming more and more scarce as time goes on. So another thing that I want to ask you about is Bill. Was he a male? Did he fill a role in your life that you looked up to?
Definitely a male. Mm-hmm. Definitely a man. Like it
doesn't sound like it was the healthiest relationship.
When you're wrong, you put your head down and you take your punishment like a man. Mm-hmm. When you're wrong, and when you're right, you lift your chin up and you go to the death. So there's some values that he had that as a male. Now I had other fortunate males as well. Like I was fortunate to be around. I was also in a time when there was more of these male figures that I respected and I looked up to, and other families like that we were near, that I was like, that dad is like, that guy is, and I would say a lot of it is, I have tried to become the father that maybe I thought I wanted, or maybe the thought or what I think of what a father should be or whatever that is, right? So, and it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It just means that, it doesn't mean that I didn't have a dad, but it just means I've been trying to be the dad through either dads that I looked at that I thought, well, that's a good father, or I like that about that guy as a dad, and I like this part about this guy as a dad, and I like that part about that guy. And I try to, amalgamize those and put those all together into one thing and be that. But Bill, there were things, of course, that I didn't respect, that ways that he was, that I ended up using as things of how to be. So I did that too. Like I went like, oh yeah, I'm not going to do that. That doesn't work out well. I watch, I go, oh, don't do that. Like, I mean, most of the time we need to learn from our own mistakes. It is cool if you can look and go, hey, yeah, that doesn't work out well. Let's try to learn from that and not actually have to go through it. Some of it I've had to go through, but some of it I haven't. So I had that. But, there were things that Bill taught me that for sure were masculine traits, male traits, respectable traits. And that was a bigger one, was just being a man and facing stuff. Hey, you did something wrong. Got to go to the house, knock on the door, go tell the guy, hey, yeah, it's me. I did it. Or, face it. I mean, I think
Consequences.
Simple. And by the way, we make it complicated. Some of the stuff is very simple. Let's not complicate it. Like like honor, respect, like these values that make us men. I go, it's not tricky. Like, don't try to make it all elaborate. I believe that when you're trying to make things too elaborate, you're disguising imperfection. When things are perfect, it's just a square. It can be perfect. And a perfect square is aesthetically pleasing, right? And you have to decorate it when it's not square and perfect. So I think for me that there are some male traits that Bill gave me that I obviously was blessed to get, and that Bill was put into my life for a reason to get those. There's no doubt that I would only thank him for that. Some of the processes that I had to go through, I didn't love it, and I would, but that doesn't mean I haven't benefited from that. So, and I had some other great male role models as well in my life that I was able to cherry pick through.
How did you find those masculinity roles? How did you find the male role models? Because there are
it's not
millions
easy.
Of kids looking for that today.
It's not easy. It's not. I mean, I part of it, I think, the best way to describe it is that because people talk about looking for the truth, right? We talk all the time. We're saying we're looking for the truth. How do you know it's the truth? I go, it's like being a hunter. If you're a hunter, you know and understand the behavior and the characteristics of the animal. You just do. You know where the animal goes. You know where the tracks look like. You know the call. You know all the stuff. And the more you do that, the better you get at it. And the better you get at it, it's like being a good fisherman. You start to just understand everything, right? So if you're looking for the truth, you start identifying the truth and looking for the truth. You get better at the truth. Pretty soon you can just see the truth everywhere. You're like, oh, there's the truth over there. There's the truth over there. That's not the truth. That's not the truth. There's an elk. That's an elk. It's like you start to be able to identify that stuff. So I think if you see things, if there's things that you respect and traits that you look for those men, you all of a sudden you be surprised. Hey, I really think but you have to have those other values, right? You have to be able to know, like, I'm looking for a man that that has a certain kind of respect, and the people that that has discipline. Okay, I respected men. I always respected men with discipline. I go look, and then all of a sudden you look around. That man has a lot of discipline. You look at that. Well, there's another one. And then you try to gravitate towards those guys that have those traits. Say, oh, he's got honor. Okay, honor. Discipline. Okay, yeah, he's got those values. You'll find them. They're there. You just have to know what you're looking for. You have to be able to go, hey, I'm looking for somebody that has those foundational things. I mean, I don't, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? I mean, I don't know. Do you learn it? I mean, I had men that I respected that people be like, well, how can you be with that guy? Or I go, well, you don't know him, first of all, like I know him. And also maybe they're not capable of seeing the thing in him, the thing that makes that I can see the loyalty, the honor, those values that at the end are the foundational values of what you have done and what you do in your world. Same in my world. Those are the same things. Those aren't different. It's not like a good man is a good man. Honorable, loyalty, truth. I mean, that doesn't change. It's not like it's one over here and something different over there. No, it's the same stuff. Just get the big book and open up and read down the thing and look for the thing. It's like, it's right there. It's in writing everywhere. It's all there for you to see. It's just, sometimes it's not the easiest to actually do. That's where the work comes in.
Yeah. Would you say you came from a broken home?
Oh yeah. I mean, when I look at it, when I look at what I think about that, I go, actually, it seems like in my life, when I look around, it's more rare to have what I have with my daughters and my wife right now, that a solid couple that are together with the kids, with the thing, like, which is what we consider, I don't know what the word is, but like a whole family or
family unit,
not broken. But I go, well, that's more rare. Like, cause you can say, well, 25% of the population or whatever the percentage is only has single parent. I go, yeah, but then you probably have another however many more that have ones that are like
abusive.
broken within it. So what's the difference if it's broken out of it or broken in it? It's all broken. So, and when you get down to like how many real whole families, like family units, real whole family units are there? That's the most rare one. Like at the end of the day, I go, everybody acts like that's the normal and these other ones are, I go, no, it's more rare to see that, and I don't know, maybe has it always been like that? Maybe it's always been like that. I don't know if it's that the real, that's where you're striving to, that you're trying to strive to that.
I don't think it's always been like that. I mean, if you look at the World War II generation, they call it the greatest generation of all time.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of that.
Yeah.
You see
but it might not have been complete.
Publicized.
Well, it also couldn't have been complete, like the relationship itself between the male and the female might not have been totally optimum, know.
Very true.
So they might have stayed together and not got divorced and doing the thing and doing all this stuff. But at the end of the day, it might have been like, and also it was a different time too. I mean, we've gotten ourselves in a time where it's almost like we're to survive, you almost have to be mutual breadwinners. You got to be mutual work. Like there's everything. You got to be working a lot more. Like I think the provider, taking care relationship has obviously that dynamic has changed. I mean, maybe that's when we're in the optimum, because I think it's like with Gabby and I, it takes a special guy that can handle a woman that has her act together. Most guys can't handle that. Most guys, you get a woman that's really got her, so she's self-sufficient.
It can be intimidating for a lot of men.
Totally. They're like, oh, too much for me. I need one that's more dependent because that makes me feel more as a provider. But that just really speaks more to your insecurity than it does to their. Like you just have to be more like, hey, cool, but I'm still the guy and I still do all the things I need to do. I don't even have to be the breadwinner. I can, lift a heavy beam or fix the toilet or whatever it is. Like but having that. So I think that a big piece of if there's the turmoil has to do partly with that, right? It has to do with the dynamics of that we're not in our optimum positions, that it's not just so clear like provision, subsistence, like we're not able to work so evenly together or in our proper roles. I think there's some role stuff that definitely is influencing the dynamic. I just, again, having a mom that the way my mom was put me in a whole nother level with my relationship with in my relationship and being able to deal with having a woman that is strong and being, and not strong, because women have their strength no matter what, but it's just in that, hey, I don't need you. Like I can provide for myself. And you're kind of like, oh, what do you mean you don't need me? You got to need me. If you don't need me, then who am I? And, so we have all that stuff that we have to work out, which is our job. Like it's our job to figure out, Gabby and I talk about it. I go, I'll go figure out how to be happy, and then I'll come back happy, and then you go figure out how to be happy, and then you come back. But not if you behave like this, then I'll be happy. And no, if you behave like that, I'll be happy. It's like, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
You can't put that on each other.
We talked a little bit about generational trauma and generational curses and stuff. Did your mom, what was her upbringing like? Was it similar?
Yeah.
So you were the one to break the generational trauma.
I think so.
That is extremely rare. That doesn't happen very often. And listening to your upbringing, I mean, statistically, you never should have made it out of that neighborhood in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
I mean, you've got an entire legacy.
Yeah.
You're obviously a very successful entrepreneur. Your surfing career is legendary. You have what appears on the outside to be a very nourishing family life with your daughters. We at breakfast and on the way here, you were talking about, fatherhood and what it's like to raise daughters, because I have one on the way, and I mean that is amazing. There's a very small percentage of the population that breaks generational trauma, and you've done it. And I don't know if you know how you've done it, but I'm going to ask, how did you do it? Nobody does this.
Yeah.
And it's important because you can see the trajectory of families, and it's not headed in a good direction.
Yeah.
So how can people break that curse?
I can only kind of try to guess at the things that helped me. There's no doubt that faith is a big animal. Like faith in God is a piece of.
Are you a Christian man?
Oh yeah, I have been for a long time. Yeah,
right.
Of course.
Cool. Well, I'll let you finish this, then we'll dive into some of that.
Well, like I said, having faith and that power that you get, or the power that gets given to you, or whatever way we want to cut that. I think that's a important. I think some of it's chance, some of it's by chance, which but then if you believe in predestined and you believe that it's been written before, that somewhere in it, I think my destiny, or should I say my life, it's been laid before me. I'm just walking on the path that's been written. And so some of it's that, some of it I'm just, going through the process. Discipline, faith, fortune. I think I'm lucky I probably shouldn't be here more than once. I can imagine you can probably relate to that. I know I shouldn't. I think I've definitely, more than once, more than twice.
That usually
there's a long list, and so I think that there's that. But having faith, that, and believing, it's like I tell Gabby sometimes when things are tight, I go, it's been okay, it is okay, it's going to be okay. I think that's a big piece of it. You really have to, and you have to want to. You really have to want to. I always meet guys that, because they talk to me about, quitting drinking and stuff. And I go, but do you want to? I go, because if you don't want to, it doesn't matter. No one can do anything for you. There's just nothing. And you can't say, yeah, I want to. No, but do you want to? Do you want to? Because there's a big difference between yeah, I want to, and yeah, I want to. How much do you want to? Because if you want to, really want to, then you can. But if you kind of want to, that's good luck. That'll never happen. It'll never happen. So I would connect it to that. I would connect it to really wanting to have like this family that, what's important to me, like my daughters, spending time with them, being daddy Uber, being the Uber and driving them to school and making that being a priority. It's just like the thing around your health, like taking care of this. Like if you don't take care of this, then this thing doesn't work. And so if you're wondering why, you're struggling, it's like, well, you gotta make the motor run, man. You got to take care of the motor, because the motor has all the impact on all the keyboards, the chemistry. It's like, and so, I think all of that, right? All those pieces. I think I've been fortunate that all the spokes, man, I just tighten, I went, oh yeah, I got to just tighten that spoke. And because, I always look at it like a wheel, and you look at it like the spokes. Any loose spoke, man, the thing, there's just a little bump in it. Where is it? Where is it happening? Where is it happening in your, are you looking at some crap on the internet? Are you drinking something over here? Are you doing that? Where is it happening? Where? And there's no perfection. That's non-existent. There's not everything in nature, every cell, every snowflake, every grain of sand is different. The shape's different. It's like, it's the perfectly imperfect. It's like but where are the areas because that's your only fighting chance.
What's creating the drag?
It's your only fighting chance. It's your only fighting chance. The only fighting chance is just reduce all the anything that could be contributing to make it more difficult to your. And I mean, like I said, because I love drinking, right? And I didn't drink until, when I was a kid. I was at a party when I was a little kid, and in Hawaii, it was just coolers were open, drink one night. And I drank so much beer one night as like a little kid and vomited. My mom and I were vomiting the whole night. And then I didn't drink it all ever until I was like 18. Like the smell of beer or 16, like 17, the smell was just like, it made me have a flashback. And then I started drinking beer culturally, like hanging out with the boys. It's the thing. And then I started drinking wine and stopped drinking beer, fattening. And I had a couple French things because I spent a lot of time in France. I was sponsored by a French company for about 20 years. And so one of my French habits was nice red wine. It's whatever. My mom was an alcoholic. I always talk about alcoholics like surfing. Everybody's a surfer and everybody's an alcoholic. It's just whether you drink or you surf. But we're all naturally alcoholics and surfers. What do you mean? I go, there's not a person alive that wouldn't love standing on a board and riding a wave. There's just nobody. I don't care if you're from Russia in the middle of Siberia or it doesn't matter. Just like being an alcoholic. There's no human that doesn't like to drink, that wouldn't like the feeling of drinking. That's what it's designed to do. I mean, that's what it does. But so I had that. I had my mom, and coming from my mom having it, and I'm not good with alcohol. I'm just, I think I can jump over the building, and, I'm just always nothing ever good came out of anything drinking, right? Mm-hmm. All the worst things I've ever done, it says it right on the bottle, impairs judgment and motor skill. Like but that was a discipline thing, right? That was a thing at a certain point. My mom said something to me that really stuck with me, that really was one of the contributing things that helped me a lot, which was, if you can't be true to yourself, you can't be true to anyone else. And so I thought, and I would drink and then not drink and then drink and be like, oh, I can stop anytime. And then I'd stop for a couple of weeks, then I'd start again. So I'd always had that emotional roller coaster of, I got control of it, but I don't have control of it. And then I have the guilt associated with it. And I'd drink and wake up at 5 and train like an animal and justify my drinking. Because then I could be like, hey, cool, man, I'm handling it. I'm doing my work. I'm doing my work. I can drink and train every day. And a lot of it was guilt training. Because I'm training because I'm trying to make up for the fact that feel shitty inside, that I don't have the discipline to do that. And so eventually, it was going to contribute to, it was contributing to hurting my relationship with Gabby, who I love, and who, that's the last thing I would want. And it was also, it was starting to, like, the girls were going to start being exposed to it. They're really young. My youngest, my middle one was young. And so I'm like, you know what? I just don't want them, a bunch of reasons, right? I just went, but it was a discipline thing. And so I wanted to prove to myself that I had the discipline, and I didn't have AA. I didn't have any reinforcement, no help, no nothing, just cold turkey. Boom, start, done, finished, 16 years. I have no desire, no interest. And what I really came to learn about it was that it was a sugar addiction.
You're coming up on 16 years?
Something like that, 16,
sober?
17, yeah.
That's congratulations. I'm almost 2 years in. Love it. Wish I would have done this a long time ago.
Me too. Absolutely.
Did you have a specific, what was it that triggered it? I read into some of your story. I was planning on covering this later in the interview. I know that Gabby, I believe, said that you turn into Larry.
Larry, yeah.
What are some of the things that were happening?
I just, I would, it's firewater for me. I don't know if I got some kind of wild native something blood or something, but it would definitely, like, I just wasn't I would go and, drive cars fast and jump off crate and you just do radical stuff. Mm-hmm. I always thought, I can leap buildings in a single bound. Like, that's what it does to me. Like, it turns on that part of my brain of just like a wild animal. I turn into a wild animal, and which I'm already, I think, naturally a little already going that direction. I don't need any support. I don't need any boost. I don't need anything.
No enhancement.
No enhancement. And so, and it was just, it's just not, nothing good's coming out of it. I think one night I came back and I always want to prove, right, that I could handle. So it's like, oh yeah, I can drink 3 bottles of wine and drive my truck home and something. I think I banged a pole and didn't set the airbags, but sheared the pole off. And then it was like the next day the pole was hanging. I came to the bottom of the hill and I looked at the pole and I thought, okay, got lucky on that one. Like I probably was going 4, but I had a, giant truck with a huge bumper and just whatever. Again, being looked after, being fortunate, getting away. It's interesting because we talk about, you see, like, especially in surfing, right? And we see people doing certain things, and you're kind of like the angels are busy protecting them.
Yeah.
So you better have because there's none available for you because they're busy. Because when you watch the way the humans are conducting themselves, every angel available is busy. Yeah. So you better, if you have the fortitude to be able to keep your stuff and be aware and keep yourself good, you better do that. So, I think there was a culmination of a bunch of incidences, behavior, relationship stuff, health, whatever, just all those things over time. It was just like, okay, I'm good. I'm good to the point where I'm going to be good. And not just dabble good. But that's why I said the question really is do you want to? Like, really want to? Because people go, yeah, they want to, but they kind of say it out of the side of their face. Yeah, I want to stop it. I'm like,
so there wasn't necessarily a specific incident or an ultimatum or anything like that.
No.
Interesting.
No.
I mean, with what triggered mine was we'd spoken about this, but I did a psychedelic therapy for traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress, and I never thought I had steps. There was a time when I would wake up and it was vodka mini bottles all day long, and then at nighttime I would just crack open a fifth and down a fifth or two, and then I got away from that and I got into wine, and it was 2-3 bottles a night, and then I did this therapy, and when I came out of it, it was like my body had an epiphany that it was the shit's poison. Quit doing it. I have not had another drop since.
Amazing.
And so there wasn't any specific.
No, I mean, well, the potential that it was going to ruin my relationship, that was getting to the point where it was going to be like at any minute, it was going to be, Gabby would walk out. And so that, or I would hurt myself, something. I felt like I was at critical mass, like enough things had happened and there was an accumulation that I was at this position where there was going to, that it was going to just be one straw that broke the camel's back.
Gotcha.
Like it was piled up and it was ready to, I didn't know which one it was going to be. And I think that was it. I think that the thought of the relationship or something bad happening with me or to one of my kids or just something, I just was like, okay, I gotta, this is, I don't have, any kind of control over this. This is not, it's out of control. And
how long was that going on for?
Years, like, and ebb and flow, but it was ramping up. I could feel, it was definitely ramping up. And, and I think it was connected to, obviously it's always connected to something that you're suppressing. Maybe the responsibility of, actually, being a dad and being a husband and, and just facing sobriety or whatever it is. Who knows? But somewhere something was getting suppressed. Something was getting, held down. So I went into it and, I just, like I said, stopped. And then I started just getting crazy sugar stuff. And I realized that it was also and I have a thing with sugar, like about it being like having some sort of, and it was sugar. It's a sugar addiction. It's the highest level. When you look at alcohol and you think about what is liquid sugar, it just goes right into your bloodstream. It takes, the absorption is, and then like having a mom that was an alcoholic, being around people, watching. As soon as I stopped and I started watching people's transformation, I was like, whoa, wow, it's amazing. Like and when you're doing it, you don't even know. You don't even realize that you're just what you
turn into.
I'm like, whoa, I can't imagine because I could see people doing it that I thought they don't even turn into anything. And I know I'm turning into something. It must be just crazy. I go, wow, that was a transformation and they don't even transform. Imagine what I was doing. And then it just, and for the beginning, I would be like, I'd wake up and had a dream that I had a sip of something and I'd be all freaked out and mad about it and everything. But it became a real challenge. Like I made it a real like disciplined thing. And what I also did was I just took a Pellegrino bottle and removed the wine bottle and put the Pellegrino bottle. Every time I want to drink, I just drink the Pellegrino.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's what I do. I'm not shitting you. That's exactly what I do.
No, of course, because a big piece
makes
of it
you
is that.
feel like you have something.
Well, it's a ritual because a part of it is just the whole symbolic thing. There's a symbolic process to the thing. Open the bottle, get the thing, pour the thing, drink the. There's a whole ritual to it, which I think helps you deal with it. So yeah, I just did a, replacement, and like I said, 15, and now I don't even. It's like I'm like, well, yeah, it's not even in my.
Don't even think about it.
Not even close.
It's not even
part of the game.
It's no effort to stay off.
None. Zero.
How fast did it take, or I guess maybe it wasn't fast. How much time had passed before you saw improvement by giving up the bottle in your life? Family,
pretty immediately.
Business,
health. Pretty immediately. Like already you're getting benefits right away. Like you're getting little pieces of hope. You just get a little hope, then you hold on to that hope, and then you get another little hope. And pretty soon you start piling up and then it happens. I felt like it happened pretty quickly. A lot of it was just the benefits of respecting yourself. The benefits of your discipline. Like, okay, yeah, I did like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. Pretty soon, now it's not even part of the thing. And I only bring it up because it's like, oh, we're talking about it or something. But for definitely for the first couple years, you're like, you're counting them. You're like, and the reward is that you, like my mom said, you respect yourself. You're like, okay, I have control over this thing that always said I did, but I never did. But now I do. And that feels pretty amazing. And you start to build off of that. But that's that was you got to use those little moments of, those little pieces, whatever they become. And then all of a sudden it's like the girls are never around it. We don't drink at our house. They never see it. So it's not just socially acceptable, like it is everywhere. Like it's just so abundant everywhere you go. You see it everywhere. You're like, it's just everywhere. It's like it's all okay. And it's like, it's not okay. It's like,
how long did it take you to realize, how fast did you see improvement with your relationship within the family, with Gabby, with your daughters, with people that are close to you? Did you see improvement by putting the bottle down immediately?
I saw incremental improvement as I went. I just would see it incrementally, like you're seeing it within a month or a couple weeks already, within a month. Part of it is all of a sudden all this time you get. You don't realize how much time to go get the bottle, open the bottle, drink the bottle, lit the thing. This is time. Like you just don't, you start to realize, wow, there's a lot of, it's like when you fast, you realize how much time you spend eating and thinking about food and getting the food and making the food and eating, it's like, and so the drinking's the same way. The time, you're all of a sudden like, it's like you're all of a sudden in the evening, you're not distracted, you're not drinking, you're not also, I think one of the things I noticed, or should I say, a difficult part of the process was my kind of loss of friends. Like a loss of friends. Like I had a group of friends that
oh, I know where you're going with this.
That I lost. That I just all of a sudden but our common thing was that we were all hanging together drinking. And that all of a sudden it was like, and then I'm a reminder to them that they're drinking, so then they don't want to be around me. And then they're telling you, hey, you used to be fun. You used to be so great. You were so awesome when you were drunk. And I was like, or when you were drinking or whatever it was. And I'm like, was I? If you think I was because of that, then obviously you don't have my back, first of all. Or maybe you just say you're saying that because you're still drinking, and I'm not. So I'm like I'm like a mirror to you there. You don't like, oh yeah, I don't want to. You were so much better when you were drinking. You mean you think you're better when you're drinking or something. So there was that transition that I had that was a little, and even once in a while I'm like, how come it's weird that I don't have the relationship with those guys that I had such a long-term relationship with, but it was, the foundation of it was, having cocktails in the afternoon, or you know what I mean? And I was pretty, like, my drinking was drink till it's dinner, eat, go to sleep. So I'm like, but I would start, like, I would train all day so that I was really, that first couple glasses was really effective. Like you're depleted, your body's hungry, and you drink a glass and you're just instantaneously buzzed. Go till, dinner, then eat dinner and go to sleep. Because I think it's been my blessing, but I've always sleeping is a big thing. So I don't like to compromise at any cost, pretty much, unless you really get wound up, and then you're going to go, in the moonlight and see how far you can jump your BMW in the pineapple fields or something.
How far did it go?
They go far. You'd be surprised. It's amazing, actually. Good suspension.
Right on. But well, Laird, let's take a quick break.
Okay.
And when we come back, I'd like to pick up on how faith played a role in your family dynamic.
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
I want to tell you about this business venture I've been on for about the past 7-8 months, and it's finally come to fruition. I've been hell-bent on finding the cleanest functional mushroom supplement on the planet, and that all kind of stemmed from this psychedelic treatment I did. Came out of it, got a ton of benefits, haven't had a drop of alcohol in almost 2 years, I'm more in the moment with my family. And that led me down researching the benefits of just everyday functional mushrooms. And I started taking some supplements. I found some coffee replacements. I even repped a brand. And, you know, it got to the point where I just wanted the finest ingredients available, no matter where they come from. And it got to this point where I was just going to start my own brand. And so we started going to trade shows and looking for the finest ingredients. And in doing that, I ran into this guy, maybe you've heard of him. His name's Laird Hamilton and his wife, Gabby Reese. And they have an entire line of supplements with all the finest ingredients. And we got to talking. It turns out they have the perfect functional mushroom supplement. It's actually called Performance Mushrooms. And this has everything. It's USDA organic. It's got chaga, cordyceps, lion's mane, maitake. This stuff is amazing for energy balance, for cognition. Look, just being honest, see a lot of people taking care of their bodies. I do not see a lot of people taking care of their brain. This is the product, guys. And so we got to talking, and our values seemed very aligned. We're both into the functional mushrooms. And after a lot of back and forth, I am now a shareholder in the company. I have a small amount of ownership, and I'm just really proud to be repping and be a part of the company that's making the best functional mushroom supplement on the planet. You can get this stuff at LairdSuperfoods.com. You can use the promo code SRS. That'll get you 20% off these performance mushrooms or anything in the store. They got a ton of good stuff. Once again, that's LairdSuperfoods.com. Use the promo code SRS. That gets you 20% off. You guys are going to love this stuff. I guarantee it.
All right, Laird, we're back from the break. We're going to talk about how faith is helped you with your family dynamic. And so I'll open it up on this. I'll let you process what I just said and think about it while I'm talking. But you know, I'm relatively new to Christianity, and kind of grew up Catholic. The minute I left home, I never looked back, and maybe stepped in a church 2 or 3 times since then, since 18 to 40. And then recently I just got back into it, just looking for some truth with everything going on in the world. And I have a Bible study with just a very few families at my house. And one of the families is my friend Todd. He's a pastor, and he had a great way of explaining things. And he says the word, the Bible, Christianity, whatever you want to call it, it's like a plumb line. And so a plumb line is how you tell if something's straight. And he says the word is a perfect reference to let you know if you're steering too far off course. And then you come back, you know, check yourself, get into it a little bit, and then start veering off back to the plumb line so you don't get too crooked. And so that was for me, a really good explanation on what it is, how to use it, and so I'll turn it over to you here.
So my mom was raised strict Catholic. So like nuns with rulers and slop the hand, and so she didn't push anything on us as kids. Like we weren't like there was no church, there was no like, because she had such a, kind of a ruler edged beating.
Drove her out of it.
Yeah. And so, and she felt that it was something for us to discover on our own, that we would just, it was up to us, that we would discover it. And, my first, saturation or intimate thing. I mean, when you grow up on Kauai, and when you grow up in the ocean, you're a little, how would I say, it's too elaborate, too amazing. Creation is too amazing to avoid not believing in something. Mm-hmm. I just think that you just can't get away from being in those worlds, the beauty of nature and the power of nature and all those and the scariness of nature and just all the things that are in it make you. It's impossible unless you're blind or just not observing to not be at least open to that. There is a grand architect. There's a plan. So I think I already had that foundation, right? Being raised in such a beautiful place and such a scary ocean and such a, creatures and big creatures in the ocean and just all the things that happen. And then I got born again. I became a born again Christian and started to read the Bible.
Was there anything that triggered that specifically?
I mean, I think it was searching that I was looking. It might have been a girl. Could have been a girl that a girl that was something about her, and then I through her and a couple of friends, there was just a curiosity that I was lacking. Or I just had an interest in it. I had an innate draw to it, like you do to fear. Like you have it's like I tell people like scary movies, because they're missing fear in their life, because normally we were scared a lot, and we have like you have a space in your stomach for dessert no matter how much you eat. You have a space, you need fear in your body. Well, there's a space for belief and the Lord in your body. All of us have it, and it's just, what are you filling it with, or is it empty? So I had that space that I was looking for, that empty space that I needed to put some answers to put some understanding to.
How old are you at this point?
Probably 18.
Okay.
19. Wow. 18, 19.
Okay.
Like early, right then, like 18, 19, maybe 20. Just in that range. And then, and I'd been around Seventh-day Adventists. I'd been around other kinds of, I know some friends are Mormons. I mean, I've been around some different things, but got into it, got into the Bible and started to really like the teachings, the parables. They just rang in my heart. They were truth. It was truth. Truth rang in me. I was like, just that's truth. That's truth. That's truth. That's truth. That's truth. Really felt attracted to that kind of learning. That learning, that the parables are such a way to. It just fit in it's the way my brain works. I think that's why they're like that. That's why they teach in parables, because they just it's to make it. It's just the easiest way we learn. It's how we understand. And so and then the tools, just every it's like a tool case. It's like tools for your life, like tools to, I would see the rewards of that, right? So I would see the rewards of of walking when I was using the plumb line. You know, I would see the rewards of when I was on the line, and I would see the lack of rewards or the side effects of not being on the line. And then and for a long time I was like, well, I spent a lot of time reading the Bible, and it was like the only book I ever had. I think I might have read it twice. Read the thing and read it and read it. It was like I tell people, there's only one book even worth reading, and that's this book right here. And so, yeah, that was Gabby has faith as well, and I think that's absolutely. I mean, your values are connected to your faith. Your faith is what. I mean, if you don't have similar values, which is your similar faith, it's hard to make anything work in a relationship, I think, for sure. But I just know in my own personal life that those tools, I said this before. I go, if you just looked at the commandments and you said, okay, I'm just going to look at these commandments and I'm going to try to walk and do these things right there. It's in your best interest. Like, it's in your best interest you will have a better life. Let's not say where we go, what we do. We just go immediate. Let's go present day. We're in it right now. We do it. We use these parables. We learn from these lessons. The more you do it, and the more you walk the line, the better your life can be. It just is. It just will be. And I've spent time participating in a lot of church stuff. I felt at times the hypocrisy that was in it, which drove me away from that structure of it. And I think what I've really tried to do in my own personal life is just live by it. Like, never mind professing, conduct. It's about the conduct. It's about, at the end of the day, you can profess all you want, but if you're, don't go repent on Sunday and then live like crap all week long. It's like, live like you don't need to repent. Like live all week long so you don't have to go repent on Sunday.
Yeah.
But yeah, the teachings. I mean, I love, when I look at. Well, first of all, when you one of my favorite passage of the whole book, and will always be is 1 Corinthians 13, just because of the definition of love. Hope, faith, belief, and love. Love is the greatest, right? So that doesn't matter if you could have the faith to move a mountain, but you didn't have love, you'd be nothing. And so all this stuff, that love is the king, and when you and it's also not easy to do, right? It's like these are challenges put before us. It's a little bit like looking at the ideal or looking at a whole family and saying, "Hey, I want to have a whole family." Well, that's the you're striving towards that, right? So I look at that book as a manual for life. Like that's a manual for life, and the truth is in it. Right. And the truth is in a lot of places. Again, it's, we spoke about being a hunter, but the truth is in a lot of places, but the truth is in all over that book. Like, you want to see truth, you open those things, you're like, truth. And that your plumb line, is that your tool that you can use to help you in this, in everything. I don't know. I don't see where there's ever, judge not that you not be judged. I mean, just there's just no end to the parables, to the teachings that, I mean, it just rang in my heart, and I think I know that's been, and it's an ongoing thing.
It appears to me, and I'm not through it all, so. Appears to me it's a roadmap on how to live, and
yes, sir.
And no matter whether you believe in it or whether you don't, it will make you a better person, no doubt.
Without a doubt, there's no. That's what I'm saying. For me, I go, even you don't need to believe in it, but will it make your life a better life? Yes, like it's written. It's like you said, it's the roadmap to to have a better life. Like when you're here, it's trying to allow you to miss a lot of hazards. It's like it's showing you, okay, here's the hazards. Now, if you just go like this and you go like that and you go like that, you're going to miss the hazards.
Yep.
You're going to miss the hazards. Like, and so I don't know in which situation that can be bad. I don't know in which situation that you wouldn't want to do that. Like, I just don't, I would never understand when you wouldn't want to miss the hazards, or why wouldn't you want to live in a way that would allow you to avoid some suffering and heartache and the plagues and the curses and all the stuff that it's trying to help you avoid. Like, why wouldn't you want to seem like, I mean, some of it's unavoidable. It's like, there's certain things that you just can't avoid. It's like certain situations you just cannot avoid. So when you can avoid things, probably a good idea to avoid. Like, I'm all about avoiding. Let's avoid, because sometimes you're not going to avoid, and you're going to be just like, here I am, and now deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's thank you for diving into that. I appreciate that. Let's dive in. You've had a successful marriage, 26 years.
Yes, sir.
You've been with Gabby. How did you guys meet?
We met on a TV show.
What TV show?
It was called The Extremist, and it was a show that she was hosting, and she would interview people that were doing all kinds of different radical things. It used to be called MTV Sports, and it turned into The Extremist, where she would interview a skydiver, then go skydiving. Then she'd interview a shark diver and go shark diving. She would interview a drag racer and drive dragsters. And she did about 60 or 70 shows. And I was one of the shows. At the end, she had already, and I was already married at the time, actually. And so, and I wasn't in a very good place in my relationship. And so the last thing I was ever looking for was to be with anyone else. That was the furthest thing from my mind. And especially given and part of the reason why I was married to begin with had to do with my faith, that I was not wanting to live, in sin. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to get married to do the right, it was some of those beliefs that I was living by. And so I was like, okay, and then I was in a position that wasn't great. And so, so then when I meet her, the last thing I'm even thinking about is like, I'm just like, oh, here we go. We got some bimbo, pretty girl that's going to ask me some stupid questions. Great. And I was just focused on riding giant waves and, try not to die, and then dealing with, a crazy person that I was trying not to live with. And so, we had an interview, and I describe it like a love at first conversation, because after the conversation we had, I think I was hit by a giant love bolt. Like a lightning bolt hit me, and I was just like, I don't even know what happened. I was just completely like broadsided. And I ended up living with Gabby 8 days later. And then we've been together since.
So you guys hit it off immediately.
Yes, sir.
It sounds like you thought she was a pretty bimbo.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, she actually thought the same about you initially.
Probably.
So what was the conversation? What was the interview? What hit you?
Just her intelligence, just the way her mind was working, and what she was, just her sincerity, her curiosity, her real. She was smart. I had a smart mom, so I know what smart is. Doesn't take me long to know what smart is, and she was smart. I'm like, this is a very smart person, and again, it was still, it was just it was out of our hand. It was out of our hands. It was one of those things that you're going along down a road, and all of a sudden it's just a hard right, and you just didn't even have the wheel. The wheel just was like, okay, now I'm going down this other road, like, and so that was, and it wasn't just so uncomplicated to be together. I mean, I moved to California, and then she was coming back with me, and I was dealing with, having. Being married and trying to work that out, and I had a daughter, and it was not a simple, it wasn't, if there was any opportunity to have it be kind of not convenient, we could have, it was at any second we would have been justified, oh yeah, we can't do that because that's just not going to happen. But it wasn't, we didn't have any of that. That was just, it was It was
a complicated relationship.
Divine.
Could have been
divine.
Could have been compromised very easily.
At any second. There was, and opportunities along the way too that we work at, listen, I'm so blessed that she can put up with me. Like I'm hard to put up with I barely live with myself, and she can somehow survive it. And I'm thankful that she just doesn't, respond to every single thing I do and say, because if she did, we probably would, I'd be alone.
So 8 days, so you guys meet, you do a TV interview, 8 days later.
Yeah. I take her surfing. I took her surfing. That was probably the part that really sent it over the edge, because we were surfing together, and that was kind of intimate, which it wasn't meant to be intimate. It wasn't like I was like, the last thing in my brain, and Gabby's the kind of woman, if there was any, and as I know her now, I mean, the fact that if I had any little like weird, like if I was at all like, hey babe, where are you going? What are you doing? Like if there was just a scent of that, which I don't have. And I mean, I don't know how she understood me as better than I understand me. Like maybe she knew things about me that I didn't know about myself. Maybe in some ways, I have a feeling like I don't know about my loyalty, but my desire to have a family and be together and all that kind of stuff. Like I think she saw that stuff, like I think only like a woman can. I think I think their ability to know us in a way is far beyond our capacity. We know us for our kind of our more immediate things, but we don't really know ourselves like they do. I think it's part of it. It's in the interest of the species. Like we need to survive. They need to know that what we when things are optimum, when people are clear in thinking. But we were, in some ways I was like it was like I was in a trance, like I was and her friends are like, what do you mean? What? Huh? What? Like they just, it made sense and it didn't make sense, but it was definitely, when she tells the story about her friends that said, oh, you're doing a story on that guy. And they're like, oh, Mrs. Hamilton. And she's like, oh, be quiet. He's, whatever. And just like there was all these things that went on.
External influences.
Yeah.
What? 8 days to move in together.
Yeah.
And you left.
Yeah.
Your
I
wife.
was living in a warehouse on my property next to my house. So I wasn't
really.
Living, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but yes, 8 days later, I was married and I moved.
What was that whose idea was it?
Well, it was just the only way to be together.
Really? So it was mutual. It was just, I'm coming out and I'm moving in.
Yeah.
And that was it.
That's it.
How long did you guys date before you got married?
A couple of years, because that's how long it took to get out of the other one.
Right on.
And she was awesome from the beginning with my daughter. She just took her in like no problem, like made her, loved on her and made her part of the family.
Really?
Instantly. Oh yeah. Instant. Like not even like in a way that you would make you be like, yeah, that's right. That's why I'm with her kind of thing, you know, like acted in a way that you were like, oh yeah, that's why.
Do you think your oldest daughter felt any type of resentment or for you leaving and going?
You know, if she did, it was probably connected more to outside influences than it was her own personal experience. Okay. So maybe could have been some, you know, programming.
So it did not affect your relationship with your daughter in a negative way.
No.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
She was also very young, like baby. She was a baby, so for her, she didn't even know she didn't even know, like, she really never knew it. It was more, like I said, if there was anything that influenced it, I mean, her, you know, my oldest daughter's relationship with Gabby is amazing. Like, they have an amazing, almost so amazing that it can be confusing, because
Really?
Society would be like, that, you know, that's your such and such, and that's your, you know what I mean? Like, society puts stuff on us, but left to our own thing, we would only go by experiences. And again, the amount of time and the amount of love and the amount of effort that was put into that relationship has created something that you just can't, all the social pressures and constructs in the world can't erase that stuff. So back to that, it's back to the time and the effort put in, the amount of love and the amount of nurture. I mean, even when there is at times that some outside influences, it still you can't, when you get into the thing, it's still has that core that you built. You built that, you put the time in. It's like that stuff can handle some pretty good rocks. It can handle some, you know, it can handle some shaking when you put that, again, the time and the effort into the love it's, you know, I mean, it's,
man, what a great example, you know, great example of a dad, great example of a husband, great example of changing the trajectory of your lineage, you know, breaking the generational trauma. I mean, you're just a really good example for people to look at. Thank you.
Well, I think it's ongoing. If I get to be, I'm getting to be. I'm just getting to be. And again, I'm back to responsibility. You know, back to that. I mean, listen. What does the good book say? You know, let he without sin cast the first stone. Look around. No one can throw anything. So at the end of the day, we're all in the same boat. You know, the thing is we always look over and we think, oh yeah, it's better over there. And then you get over there and we have a saying, it's all grass. Yeah. You get across the fence, you're over there, you're like, oh, here we are again, back in the grass, cutting the grass. It's like, it's the same grass. It's like, no, it's better over there. And you go over there and you're like, oh no, I'm back in the grass again. It's like, it's not, we think it's so much better, but everything has its, I mean, we're all in, my friend has a saying, we're all in the same boat. We're on earth, we're humans, you know, and I think, because it's like, even in my upbringing, when somebody says to me, they go, hey, you know, where are you from? And I go, Earth. I'm a human from Earth. And then if you're something different, then we have a long conversation. Then we should sit down and talk. Then you know, like, if you're not from Earth and you're not a human, we need to really, like, I can't wait to hear about this story. But if other than that, let's get past that stuff, because we're so caught up in the I'm here and I'm this and I'm from here and I'm that. And this is just all division stuff. This just all keeps us all away. When you really dig down, I think we all really want the same thing. Like, we want peace, we want happiness, we want that's what we want. Like, okay, there's a few people that are maybe a little bit chemically off and they got to maybe, you know, work out and eat some good food and get some sleep. But like, we really want the same things. We do when we're of sound mind and spirit. When we, you know, I have to clarify that, because there's some demonic forces in the planet. Mm-hmm. So when you're possessed, that's a different story. I'm just saying, but when, there's the majority of us who are, we're people, we want the basically the same things that, that it's like, and I like to get by that because I think because of my upbringing, and I think the separate, hey, where are you from? Oh, I'm from over here. I mean, we used to have crazy stuff. Like if you were from the other side of the island, you were from someplace else. Or what side are you? Oh, I'm from the west side. Oh, you from the west side? What are you doing over here? This is the north side. Oh, I'm from the east side. Oh, you're on the east side. Well, what about the west side? Oh, the south side. It's like you have the south side, the east side, west side, and you're all like acting like you're from different places. And it's an island this big. You're like, no, you're from the same island. Like what the, and the Earth's a little bit like the same thing. Like, hey, we're from the Earth. Like, but yeah, well, and then you get belief in there too, and that just really, again, man's, another one of man's construct. At least the good book is got the wisdom of the truth, right? Because the truth isn't different. Lately you hear people talk about truth being like there's different truths. No, there's no different truths. There's one truth. If anything, if there's differentiation, then these aren't the truth. The truth is only one truth. It's like gravity. You fall, you land. Like east, west, south, north. Okay, truth. The moon, the sun, truth. Okay, love, truth. Okay, peace, truth. Okay, loyalty, truth. Okay, it's like these are truths. Like it's not like there's not a different kind of loyalty. There's not like one loyalty here and then this is another different loyalty over here. No. There's one kind of loyalty, and there's a certain thing that makes that what it is. There's one kind of love. There's a certain thing that makes that what it is. There's certain, we're just in such a, I don't know, I think that we're playing with definitions and stuff, and that leads us, that's just confusion. Again, it's back to, creating complication to disguise imperfection.
Yeah, divide and conquer.
Well, and accountability too, getting people to actually have to do the work. You got to do the work. People got to do it's, I've been fortunate to be able to ride a surfboard. Like what a crazy blessing that is. I mean, I'm like, like that's a, how does that even possible? Like,
yeah.
So
I want to move into your surfing career. Before I do, I got two pieces of advice I'd like to get from you for the audience. One is, what advice do you have for men to be a good husband?
For a man to respect your wife.
Respect your wife.
That the first thing, they did a study on relationships, and they said that one of the few things, probably the only single thing that was consistent amongst successful relationships was that the man respected the woman. I think that because if you respect your wife, and it's ongoing, it's probably something. It's not like you just respect her and then you don't have to respect her. Like it's probably an ongoing thing. I think that sets you up for success in your relationship. And I'm sorry. Say I'm sorry. You're right, and I'm sorry.
Hey, it works. 26 years.
Yeah. Well, that's the only advice I have. You're right, and I'm sorry, and respect her. But I think for us. I think that's our challenge is to have respect, and then also just and be patient. I've learned to. And I'm not always great at it, but you need to have, women are moving at a different gear than we are. They're moving at a different speed. Their clock's different. Their timing's different. Their whole thing is different. And for us, the way we are, we're so, we have a certain kind of movement, and there is a different movement. They're just moving at a different thing. And I'm learning that. I'm still continuing every day to kind of try to acclimate myself to that different speed, that different movement, it's just a different, they just move at I make a joke and I'm like, is it man time or woman time? There's like two different clocks. Like I got my clock and then I got her clock. And is it like, where do the clocks move? And they're not the same. Like 12 o'clock on the man clock could be 12:45 on the woman clock. You don't know.
Yeah. Two different algorithms.
That's right.
Two different.
That's right.
Second piece of advice. You got 3 daughters you're very close with. You guys have a beautiful family dynamic.
Yes, sir.
Fatherhood.
Yeah, it's an evolving thing. You know, I if somebody said to me, you know, being a dad, I said, really, I feel like being a good father is that you're like a post in the middle of the house, and you're just holding up the roof, and you're holding on to the beam of the ceiling of the roof, and every once in a while they come in and they kind of touch the post to feel if it's there and if it's steady. And so you're just like this post that holds everything up, and that's, I mean, and when you look at the parable of that, like what that represents as for your girls, like that you're just solid and you're a post, and then you know, I am all about, first of all, take advantage of the time, because it's going to go like this. It's going to be gone. And so you just better you're not going to be able to make it up. You're not going to be able to go back and, you know, be there and take them to school, or, you know, every time you get or whatever opportunity you get to be with them, milk it, because it goes beyond fast. Like they just go poof, before you know it, they're adults and they're out the door and you're like, goodbye. And it's like, and you don't get to go back. You don't get to go back and say, hey, wait a second. Can we do those things that we got to do along the way? And so, but they're going to learn, you know, they're going to learn courage from you. They're going to learn, you know, your job is to make them courageous, like to make your girls courageous and to give them self-confidence. Like that's part of what we do, and part of that post, and that is that reliability, you know, that makes them secure. It's interesting because I've watched my daughters have a security when they, you know, they'll go out and they'll be able to go out and stay at a friend's house, or go out when they're even young, and never would they need to come home really or anything. They had a certain, because they knew home was there. They knew home was safe. They knew home was solid, and they could rely on it. And so I think that there's something, but that being that rock, you know, it says be a rock, like be stable, solid there, and then take advantage of it. Because they're gonna be adults, and then you're not gonna go back and say, hey, can we redo that stuff? And yeah, it's the best.
I will personally take that advice.
It's the best.
Thank you.
It's the best.
I am definitely realizing how fast it all goes.
It's a blink of the eye. And it just seems to accelerate even more. It's just like it ramps up, and before you know it, they're just like looking at you in the eye, and then they're a thing, and it's like, then they're in a car, and then they're driving, and then, you know, like my oldest daughter's has a whole life, and, you know, we get to talk to her all the time and see her, but still they're gone. They're just, and you don't get to go back and go make it all up.
Yeah. Is it exciting watching them, you know, when they leave and
Yeah.
watching them grow as humans and adults? And
Well, you know what they say, if you do a really good job, they leave easily. So that's the reward, right? You do a great job, and then they just walk out the door. You're like, what the? But you did a good job. If they have a hard time leaving, it means but yeah, and they're all so different too. Each one has a different, it's crazy how they can be so different from two of the same people. Just how does just each one comes out just completely different, and it's just but it is interesting to see the people that they're going to be. Like when you watch, I'm like, wow, it's going to be an interesting show. This is a crazy show right now. Like you get to see them kind of, you know, evolve, and you go through the thing. I don't think I've ever felt more vulnerable in my life. I don't think I've never in my life I don't care what situation I've been in, hanging from a cliff. I just never felt the vulnerability that I have with the girls, just because it's not, you have no participation. You have to just watch, and you just, I think that's one of the lessons in the process, is that vulnerability. You don't know what vulnerability is until you have a child. And then when you have a daughter, you're just, when mom puts them in the car and then they drive out the driveway, you're just going, like, because there they go. And, faith, faith is in in their hands, and you have nothing. You're just like, but but at the same time, I think that's what brings us that thing. We get that joy from it because of that, because we get that vulnerability.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So let's move into surfing.
Yes, sir.
First time on a surfboard.
Young baby, throw them on the shore break, throw them on the board. Urchins in the butt, like super young. Just go on the board, and then had a board made for me when I was like a actual board. That was my first surfboard, which was, in those days, it was, I part of it is my age. When I was a child, there was no such thing as a boogie board. Like there was no foam boards. There was no boards for kids. I mean, the group of kids that were surfing were few and far between. I mean, you could probably count all the kids that were surfing in the world my age during my generation. It was just like a non-existent thing. So I was, a lot of it was like pieces of surfboards. Like you'd get a broken piece and that would be your surfboard, or some reject thing that was some guy made high on acid or something crazy, and like, here's this weird thing, and but it doesn't work, but that would be your first board. And so I actually got a board made for me when I was a child, and Bill Hamilton made me a board, and he shaped and made boards. One of the incidents of the many that I was in was I saw him shaping. He was shaping in the house that we lived in downstairs, and then I went after he was gone, and I took a handsaw, which I saw him use, but I took it on these ones that were completely finished. They had been hand sanded, and I sawed big chunks out of the boards, which you can imagine provoked him in some sort of way, which was probably not good.
Yeah.
So it's that bad combination of, good temper and misbehavior. Not a good mixture, but yeah, so I had a board made from him, and then just had just started my I'm just possessed. I was just possessed to surf. Like and I was obnoxious. There's stories when I would run around and like I would, because I think I was so proud to get a dad that I used to go and bang into people and go, who my dad is. Like I had that in me because I didn't have a dad. So when I got a dad that was a surfer, and Bill was a great surfer, and in his day he was known as a style master. So he had one of the most beautiful styles in surfing, and was very well known in surfing, and had was in movies, and so it was like I got this, I got my hero to be my dad, and I would go and brag and, no, my dad's Bill Hamilton, blah, 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 and all this stuff. They'd be like, oh, come on, get away, punk, that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I started that, I just started surfing as a little rat, and then just, used to be, there's all these stories of me just being obnoxious and yelling out in the lineup and jockeying. And there's a lot of pecking order in surfing. Surfing has a very big pecking order. There's a lot of there's a whole hierarchy. There's a whole structure within a lineup. That's pretty normal, especially like in Hawaii, and in other surf locations. But most every great wave in the world has a whole pecking order, a structure of who gets the waves, who has priority, and then everybody down. Then you have like the guys that are the worst at the bottom. They get all the leftovers, and so there's a whole almost a predatorial structure. So as a young surfer in Hawaii, growing up, you're having to kind of deal with that and try to work your way up into the hierarchy.
Okay.
which is an interesting process.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Next on the Shawn Ryan Show.
You know, everything I am and have is some indirect part of the ocean, and so I owe it my life.
You talk about some near-death experiences. Can we go into some of those?
I was in Oregon in this White Salmon River, and there was a river rafting trip. They stopped before this giant waterfall. They pulled the raft in, they made us walk around, and I said to the guy, well, can't we go off that thing? He goes, well, we don't go off that thing. And I go, well, what if I want to go off that thing? He goes, well, I can't stop you. So I swam out into the river, and I swam right into the heart of it. And as I was going off head first, because I thought I was going to go like that, right? And I heard the guy yell, feet first from the shore, so I kind of rolled over and turned around and went feet first. And I went over the waterfall, and I landed underwater on a big stone with the waterfall holding me down. Just holding me like that. And I was sitting there, and I'm like, and I was like, can't move. And I tried to, I couldn't press. And I'm sitting there, and I just got a vision of a skeleton with a life preserver on it. And I ended up, after not being able to move at all, I ended up moving my leg. And when I moved my leg, it spun me out from the stone, spit me out of the back of the thing. And my friend was already swimming from the side below in the pool to come out because I hadn't come up.
You're quite the adrenaline junkie. I think we have a lot in common here.
Hey everybody, I'm Shawn Ryan. Click here to subscribe to the Shawn Ryan Show YouTube channel for the hottest and most compelling interviews that you will not see anywhere else. I've also made a playlist of all the previous SRS episodes so they're easy to find. You can find that right here.